Grab a seat, sip some wisdom, and stay a while. This is the Prosperity Lounge, where growth gets personal. Step inside, we're breaking chains.
This is the Prosperity Lounge, where growth gets personal and hope meets freedom. Whether you're joining us live on the radio, watching on YouTube, or catching the replay later on your favorite podcast platform, welcome, 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 everybody. Appreciate you all being here on this wonderful evening. You can find the Prosperity Lounge wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. That includes Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon, and all a bunch of the rest of them. And you can always watch the full episodes and live streams on YouTube. Just search for the Prosperity Lounge or the Prosperity Lounge with Joey Ruffalo or whatever. You'll find it. We're there. This is your first time here. Thank you for joining us. Pull up a chair. Get ready to get comfortable. If you're a regular, welcome back. You know, this is the place for real conversations about money, leadership, business, wellness, and what prosperity actually looks like in everyday life. Also want to tell you guys all about something new that's happening here in the Prosperity Lounge. What we got going on. We launched our brand new daily show and podcast last week. So we're 2 weeks into that. It's been a fantastic experience and a great, great reviews and everything so far. So I really appreciate that. It's Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. It launches on YouTube and on the podcast platforms. It's called A Daily Dose of Prosperity. It's designed to give you one practical idea, one mindset shift, or one leadership takeaway that you can use that day. I always say in the beginning, I don't want to do something that's not going to waste your time, and these episodes are 5 minutes or less. They're really, really short and quick. Again, you'll find them all here on the podcast feed, on YouTube, wherever you subscribe. Appreciate y'all. If you get over there, just give me a quick shout out, give me a quick comment. Let me know you guys enjoy it. Hit the subscribe button, follow. Make sure you're all great with that. Before we go any further, I want to thank the partners who make the show possible. First off, we have Bello Business Solutions. Get them on the screen here. If you're watching, there's the QR code to scan to go to their site. Bello Business Solutions, helping business owners bring clarity, structure, and smarter systems to their operations so they can grow without chaos. Contact them and use the code Make Business Make Sense for a free consultation today. And of course, LaPera Insurance. Call 865-252-0480. Ask for Joe LaPera. Email Joe at JLAPERA@farmersagent.com. Use promo code JRRadio, and the first 10 quotes this month get a free gift card. LaPera Insurance is a trusted local resource helping families and businesses protect what they're building with practical relationship-first insurance guidance. We're grateful for our partners who believe in this mission and keep those conversations going. You can check it all out on our website as well at theprosperitylounge.com. You can check out our partners page, check out our sponsors and our new directory listings as well. All right. Now that that's all out of the way, get this back off the screen. Perfect. I want to set the expectations for today's conversations. I want to thank you all for being here again. If you're expecting a campaign rally or a political debate, continue to watch, but it's not the show for you. I'm not going to get into that. What I want to talk about today really is leadership, stewardship, and real-world decisions that affect families, businesses, and communities. I've had similar conversations. You've been with us for a while where we talk with leaders like Glenn Jacobs, Kim Frazier, Brent Gibson. We always focus on character before position. My guest today is Representative Monty Fritz. And regardless of where you land politically, this conversation is about how leaders are formed, how decisions get made, and who those decisions impact. So wherever you're listening from, I'm glad you're here. Let's get into it. Monty, thank you for pulling up a chair inside the Prosperity Lounge.
Hey, brother, appreciate you having me tonight. It's good to be with you all, and it's good to be in the warm. It was pretty cold this morning when I started my day.
Absolutely. And the studio gets the lights on and everything else. We get warm up pretty fast in here. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for making the trek out. I know this is the first week you guys are back in session.
Yes, sir, it is. We're getting wound up. We go back into session according to the Constitution, second Tuesday in January at noon, and lots of finishing up bill filings and getting all the things ready to go as we get into just a super accelerated pace over the next few weeks.
And you guys, if I remember correctly, you guys are now until what's it, April? May?
Well, it will really be until we finish business,
Okay.
get through all the bills. There's a reduced number of bills this year. Each House rep is limited to 10. Committee chairs get a few more, but that should expedite things a little bit. I would expect we're probably somewhere mid-April. That's if I had a crystal ball, and I don't.
If you had a crystal ball, I'd ask you a bunch of questions right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. So again, thanks for taking time out at the end of this first week to be here and talk to me about yourself, really. Before we talk policy, I want people to understand how you were formed, because leadership doesn't start in Nashville. It starts in the community at home, and you kind of bring it with you to Nashville a little bit, hopefully injecting some of your own qualities into the Nashville scene, which doesn't happen very often. But you served in the military.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much for your
I joined
service.
the Army, and the first time in '83, and I spent 10 years either in a little bit of time in the Texas National Guard, but Tennessee National Guard after the active duty part. I got out busy with a family and had 2 boys and working, and my responsibilities at my job were going up. So I got out of the Guard, loved it, missed it. When we decided we're going to send Tennesseans to Iraq in '03 as part of Operation Iraqi Freedom. I re-enlisted in '03, and then I spent '04 and most of '05 on active duty and in Iraq.
Wow.
Yep.
How long were you out before you went back in?
10 years.
Okay.
10 years. Yeah, I was the 40-year-old. I re-enlisted at just before I turned 40. I turned 41 in Baghdad, or outside Baghdad, and it was a great experience. I had some great young soldiers. You know, I was a steel pot soldier and still polished my boots when I joined the Army. And the Army I come back into had suede boots and Kevlar helmets.
Oh man.
And land navigation had changed from a compass and a protractor and a map to something electronic. So it was a great adjustment. Had some good soldiers, and it's an honor to get to do that.
Did you have to go back through training, and did they put you through tests? The younger soldiers test you a little bit too?
I really just had to lose some weight. I was out of shape by the time I was 40.
Okay.
And so it got me back in shape. The Army was allowing 39-year-olds to join at that time with no prior service. And because I had prior service. So they let me come back in. I kept my rank. I was a staff sergeant. I ended up being the platoon sergeant for the convoy security and PSD team. We had somewhere north of 200. Somebody said 272, somewhere north of 200 patrols.
Wow. Now I've seen a lot of pictures with you, and you can I would say educate me on this. You have a certain hat that you wear.
Yeah, Stetson.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a big black hat.
Yes.
So that is not an official Army headgear thing, but cavalry soldiers and cavalry units condone that, right? And so some of the folks took their Stetsons to Iraq. Well, that's an expensive hat, and you only have so much room when you're an enlisted man. I didn't, but I wear it occasionally now, and I've got my staff sergeant chevrons and a set of cross sabers on it, combat action badge on one side. I got 2 ARCOMs while I was there in combat zone. So I keep some of the medals and stuff on it. I've got a pin that I was given by Jerry Falwell, the old Jerry Falwell, the original.
Mm-hmm.
And I keep it on there. So and I've all 3 combat patches, if you will. So we earned a combat patch from the 1st Infantry Division, the 42nd Infantry Division, of course, the 278th. And so I've got all those on the hat. I have a little fun with it.
Love that. So you've had that experience. You've worked in the nuclear security sector.
Yes, sir.
You had leadership roles long before elected office.
Yes, sir.
How did those environments shape how you view responsibility?
Yeah, I think, well, to answer that, I would have to say part of getting older, God uses all your different experiences to kind of shape you into the man or woman that he wants you to be, gives you the opportunity to. And we exercise liberty, that 2 Corinthians 3:17, where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. To to decide to do the right thing and make correct choices and share that reward, or to do the wrong thing and suffer the consequences. But I think the Army was tremendously impactful in shaping who I am today, both the first time I went in and the second. Those 21 and 22-year-olds made a difference, and they made me a better person. Some of the older folks too. Everybody my age then was either a first sergeant or a sergeant major or a colonel. All the captains and stuff were younger than me. And, so those young people made a difference in me, I think. I went to work initially at Y-12 when I was fortunate to get in there, in a security police officer role.
Okay.
And so I did that for about 4 years. I was a union steward for 2 years for the shift that I worked on. And I'll be the first governor that's been a union steward. I'm sure I'm going to be the first governor that's been a asbestos worker. I'm absolutely certain I'm the first guy will be the first governor that has managed enriched uranium operations for, so along that way, how did God shape me? So I'm having a little fun with your question. The good people, God put good people in my life, and often they took a chance on me and give me opportunity and chances that I can't say I'd really deserved or earned. They exhibited grace. We're supposed to exhibit grace between one another. God gives us grace. We're supposed to give it. And so I got a chance to go back to school. As a part of that, I was bored with what I was doing. And I realized if I was going to have more decision-making in what I did and how I supported my family or helped support my family, I need to go back to college. So I did that, started at Roane State, finished at Liberty. Seemed like I was on the 75-year plan. Sometimes you're working full-time going to school. It's a thing.
Absolutely.
And so I finished a master's degree in chemistry and business, multidisciplinary degree, business and chemistry, or chemistry and business. And then again, I've moved on up. I've got much more responsibility. I'm managing $250, $300 million a year budget with enriched uranium operations. And I needed to sharpen my business skills. And so fortunately, my VA benefits have been turned back on. I'm very fiscally conservative, except when it comes to guns, cars, and food. Everything else, I'm kind of a tightwad on it. But in clothes, I like good boots. But anyways, so I was accepted. I applied. I did one of these executive MBA programs at the University of Tennessee, and one of these 18-months, you go to school every Saturday, except for Florida and Alabama Saturday.
Right.
And great experience. I'm so thankful for those professionals that helped me perhaps sharpen my skills and understand economics and big supply chain better. It was just a tremendous professor there. Many. Doc was a great guy. Mandyam Srinivasan was kind of like the supply chain guy. I learned so much from him. I learned from many, but he really pushed it. And so I think he forced me into being a little bit of a supply chain thinker. And I was teaching Sunday school, and I had plenty of VA benefits again. So I did a master's of arts and theological studies from Liberty. And again, that's a long answer. God put good people in my path. They give me opportunities, try to get up and run hard into those opportunities, and it paid off.
You mentioned Liberty. We were actually up at the campus back in October for a summit. They have a CEO summit up there. And so my wife and I got to go up, and they had me doing podcasting and interviewing people up there in the room and touring. And I had actually enrolled in their doctorate business program for executive coaching a few years ago. But a few courses like it's in the way and I have to get back. So I'm on that 75-year plan to finish that as well. So, but it's cool. It's a great little place, man, up there.
Oh my goodness.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Campus is something else. We
got to go to a football game when we were there. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. We, I spent my last, 2.5 years as a Y-12 employee, BWXT employee at Y-12 at headquarters in DC as a liaison for production, because I'd come to know something about uranium processing. And I come back to work, and another opportunity, good people at BWXT, folks I'd worked for, give me an opportunity to go up and be the director of operations at Nuclear Fuels in Irwin. I did that. I loved it. I worked with great people. It was a great group of the workforce, union workforce again, but just tremendous good country folk doing great things. We had 2 products coming out of there: the fuel for the Navy, boats and carriers, and downblended for TVA. And then Truck 45 won, and some of those people I had worked with in the 2.5-year temporary assignment asked me if I'd take an appointment. So I was a physical scientist. I still try and determine what that means. That was a job title, and I was the material recovery and recycle federal program manager, and that had uranium, tritium, and plutonium. And then we set up the Office of Stockpile Production Integration. Great time. Was traveling all the time. A good learning experience for managing schedules, which I always need help with. I'm not great at that. Sometimes my own schedule. But I was on an airplane 3 times, 4 times every week and all over the country. Great experience. Decided to retire, and I was just going to take all that stuff you'd ask about and kind of put it in the drawer, be a full-time grandpa, and hunt more, ride motorcycles more. And yes, God had other plans.
So I want to actually pivot for a second. You were talking about, okay, so you got my interest piqued on this. You are in the military originally at 19. You go back in close to 40.
Yes, sir.
You have, when you're 19, you have leaders that are older than you. When you go back in at 40, you have leaders that are younger than you.
Yes.
How did you, what did you learn from that experience as far as maybe looking back saying, when I was 19, I was naive, or I was this or that, I didn't fully understand. And now that you're older, but you have somebody younger than you managing you, what was that experience like? Kind of compare your younger self to older self.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, I offer this to people from time to time. At 19, at basic training at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and you're climbing agony, misery, and heartbreak, which are the 3 renowned hills then that you had to master, right? And my drill sergeants were all old men. They were like 26 years old. And so I remember thinking that. And so one of the perspectives you ask about is, I think God designs us to pick up things. Certainly, I enjoy being active now at 62, but I think God builds into us leadership qualities as we grow, if we accept them, if we exercise the correct decisions at liberty, so that then we can help later. And I think if you were to ask some of those much younger than me, lieutenants and captains, some probably wouldn't like it. So pretty hard NCO too, right? But most of them would say that it was good to have somebody a little bit older to help with that. And the National Guard's a little bit different. You have a little bit older soldier, and which that was a good thing. I learned perspective from those young folks, and I've become pretty much a subject matter expert in what I was doing. I'm not being braggadocious. I understood the uranium business. That can't spell it now, but I understood it then. And to have those young men that understood things about electronics and a different worldview from just, being younger, was a tremendous growth experience for me. I think I'm trying to bring that into politics now. I've visited several campuses and talked to like the college Republicans, the Turning Point clubs, the YL. It's a whole different perspective. We should be listening to them. My generation has kind of stuck it to them on debt and budget and what it costs to live. And we probably ought to start with an apology toward the 23-year-olds and then try to help them not make the same mistakes we've made.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that thought process, because sometimes, you see something, you go through it the first time, and the second time you go through it, you're really, it's a whole different experience.
Yes, sir.
Do you feel, I guess this is a hindsight question, answer however you want to answer, did that second time through change your path?
Second time through
The military. Yeah. When you went back as an older soldier and that being in that position where you had the younger people and you've been there and you kind of were that mentor, even though you were younger, you had that experience. Did that kind of change your path and going down a different way?
Absolutely. It changed my path at work at Y12. It changed my path in education. It turned on, being that natural tightwad that I told you about, it turned on the ability to finance those master's degrees without having to pay for them, pay a whole lot for them.
Yeah.
And it also reinvigorated my attitude that there's nothing I cannot do. Now, that's not, don't take that as braggadocious either.
No.
I'm a country boy to the core. But I do embrace that scripture that says I can do all things through Christ. And that's not talking about just climbing mountains and running races and doing all this stuff, but it does include those things. Because I think once you get grounded who you are and in whom you belong and rest, the heart and the mind of a faithful man can overcome anything. I'll give you the best quote I've ever heard, and it's outside scripture, and people on your show are going to laugh at me for saying this.
Let's do it.
But it comes from Rocky Balboa.
Okay. I love Rocky.
Yeah, I do too. One of the best movies ever made. Now, 4 and even 3, Rocky, I wasn't crazy about those. But Rocky 1, Rocky 2, and Rocky Balboa are fine entertainment, I think. And so he says to his son, it ain't how hard you can hit. It's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. That is life.
I love that. Whenever my wife tells me, when I'm picking something back up, something I haven't done in a while, I tell her I still got stuff in the basement.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember that. Yeah, Paulie. Yeah, he and Paulie, the conversation. It's a great movie. And I'll tell you, there was another young captain that you learn. I plagiarize smart people, right? I think we all should. You know what I mean? I mean, plagiarize in a nice way.
Yeah.
Right? But this person said that the greatest defeating quality a person can have is too great a desire for comfort. And we humans desire comfort, right? Because when we started talking before I come in, you said, what got you off the couch and into this?
Right.
The couch is comfort. The couch in life is comfort. I don't think God calls us to that. I don't think God calls us to be timid and comfortable. He calls us to be bold and challenging. And that means that we have to, something I've shared with young people probably since my at least mid-40s, become a subject matter expert in something new every day. That's an impossibility to be the subject matter expert. But you have to enter into it with that mindset. It's the Lombardi thing. Lombardi said you must aim for perfection to get excellence. And so you have to aim to become a subject matter expert in something every day. It forces you to read. It forces you to open your mind to ideas. It forces you to listen to the person who thinks much differently than you. You may never agree with them. But I think one of the things, and I promise I'll stop with this. One of the things that causes us today, politics is so volatile. 2 things. One, men males are weak and thin-skinned.
Okay.
Right? And you've offended me. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. And the other thing is, we have not spent enough time investing in our own minds, between our own ears, what we really think. So I'm afraid to sit down with you and discuss, knowing that you may think differently than me. I'm afraid I can't justify my position, so I avoid the conversation. There's an Abraham and Rickover concept, 2 that I've held true in life that I think are tremendously important. And I worked naval reactors type stuff, and Hyman Rickover is the father of the United States nuclear Navy. And the first one, he said, was face facts brutally.
Okay.
That sounds harsh, but I understand he was an austere man. So there's a place for that. And the second one is, if you can't write it down, you don't understand it. And so I think that I have explored that in my life to mean I must think on things, I must read on things, and I must decide first and convince myself what I think. And then after I do, you're going to be hard pressed to change my mind. It happens. I do make mistakes. often. If you ask Mrs. Fritz, who's outside here, she'll tell you that I need to improve the process. But I think we don't do those things today. And so we found ourselves in a political environment, business environments where we just say, oh, that person's mean, or that person's bad, or this person's stupid. And what we ought to do is sit down and say, Joey is an image bearer of Almighty God. I may not agree with him, but I can give him a few minutes to listen to him. And then maybe I'll get the opportunity to explain to him why I think differently. And even if we don't agree, even if I think his ideas are stupid, we can still be friends.
I love that, man. That's awesome. Talked a little bit about faith, and I wanted to ask how your faith in education and master's in theology, how did that shape your leadership philosophy before politics entered the picture? And basically a two-parter on that kind of leads into this part. Where do you think government tends to overcomplicate things with faith? I mean, people as leaders tend to shy away from being faith forward. We saw that kind of change a bit in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination, where everybody spoke out on faith and was at the pulpits talking about faith in Congress, and the president and the vice president are talking about faith. And then as the days and the weeks go by, it's less and less and less about faith and back more to what the left's doing wrong, what the right's doing wrong, and policies and the infighting again. And we're all kind of connected for a little bit around that faith. Mm-hmm. As someone who is a faithful person, how do you integrate that into your political life?
First, you have never met a person more in need of the blood of the cross of Christ than the old boy that sits in front of you right now. I was hopelessly, miserably lost without Jesus. That's important to remember. And it's easy for me to get to the point, all of us human beings, where we think we're a little above the standard. The ground at the foot of the cross is level. We all stand at the foot of the cross level. And so I think as we get older, we get smarter about that. I think in the politics and in the political arena, I think what we just talked about, an unwillingness to confront an opposing opinion, is because we aren't well versed enough in what we think.
Right.
I think the same thing applies to our relationship with Almighty God. So Article 1, Section 3 of the Tennessee Constitution starts off with all men. Don't say it 3 times. That's emphasis on me. Have a natural and indefeasible right to worship Almighty God, capital A, capital G, within the dictates of their own conscience. Our founding fathers were bold. Many people will try to convince you today that our founding fathers were deists. I would offer that the George Washington, that if you've got to read the George Washington, I'll mess it up if I try to quote any of it. In 1752, there was a prayer that he prayed that is phenomenal. He's still fighting the Indian Wars, right?
Yeah.
And these men embraced their faith. Even Franklin, who was probably the most deist-like of all of our founding fathers, in my opinion, from my readings. But he's the one that after they spent weeks and weeks and weeks, we've won the war. We've declared independence in 1776. All men have been endowed with a creator with certain inalienable rights. All that comes together, right? But we can't ratify the Constitution. And they're struggling with it, remember? It was Franklin that come in, and I'm going to mess this. I'll paraphrase it as well. He said, we prayed to win the war. Shouldn't we try that now? And so that was part of the driver for me with our prayer resolution for HJR 803 and 51. We have become reticent about uplifting the name of Jesus in public. And so, listen, we live in a time of liberty. I've already defined that.
Right.
There's coming a day, I'm convinced, that God's word says that every knee is going to bow and every tongue is going to confess that Jesus Christ is Lord. That's coming. That part of liberty is going to stop right then. Everybody's going to do it. But until then, God doesn't force anybody. He wants us to enter into a relationship from our own free will. I mean, that's the way he's designed this thing. And So I think in America, it's Almighty God. That's what the Constitution's written about. And I can point you to all kinds of things. I think that.
Mhm.
And so somebody countered me on this one day. They said, well, Monty, you don't believe in religious freedom. I said, neither does Almighty God. He says you shall have no other gods before me.
It's-
And so he's not a religious freedom. He gives us the liberty to get to decide now. But I think be bolder in our faith. Don't fake it. People can tell. People's BS-ometers are really tuned in today, Joey, and they can tell.
yeah.
And so I just think be real in it. Talk about what God's done for you and how he's moved in your life. I think that's important. It's okay to say Jesus in public. We should. We must. If we expect God's blessing on this land, if we've learned anything from history, not just U.S. history, but all of history and scriptural history, we better understand that it's important to honor God in what we do.
Well, it's a great segue into leadership under pressure, Monty, there. Thank you. A lot of our listeners out there lead businesses, teams, or households. And for them, pressure is not theoretical. It's real.
Yeah.
In your experience being in the state house, or just in life in general, what do you feel is the hardest leadership decision you've had to make when there was just no clean win?
Boy, that's a great question. I'm typically pretty close. I'll tell you about something I messed up. How's that?
Sounds
Where I
good.
recognize I've messed one up.
Perfect.
And you'll see the bill this year. So we passed a piece of, I hate taxes. And I'll say that three. I hate taxes. I hate taxes. I do. I think Nehemiah hated taxes, right? If you go read Nehemiah chapter 4 and chapter 5, where Nehemiah's gone back to build the wall in ancient Israel or Judah, he comes back and realizes that the countrymen are exacting usury on the people and got them so taxed that they're having to sell their children off. And he says he became very angry. Yeah, go read Nehemiah chapter 4 and chapter 5. We're kind of there, I think, in Tennessee and in America today. But anyways, we need to build the walls back, walls of the Constitution and honoring God. And we need to tear down those same high places where we've done things for a long time. And I know that sounds extreme to some of your listeners. I hope this isn't messing you up. I'm just being candid. You asked for on it.
We're good.
Yeah. So I think we had a bill come through, and you pay 27 cents per gallon on gasoline tax, state tax now. It's supposed to take care of the roads, and they raised the taxes a few years ago before I got there, and it's supposed to make the roads better. I'm not sure that worked. But anyways, aside from that,
Reminds me of California, Monty.
Yeah, that's aside from that. Electric vehicles have become a thing, right? I'm driving a hybrid tonight. I'm driving a little hybrid car. It's not a plug-in hybrid, but a hybrid. And it generates its own electricity through braking and regenerative processes and a little gasoline power plant in it. But some cars are plug-in. They never have to go to a gas station. That's great if they want that. If people want that. So they put a registration fee on them to pay on average what other people were paying in gasoline, right? And I voted for that. But we put it on hybrids too. So I get a call from a guy in my town. I won't mention his name, but if he's listening, he's going to know exactly what I'm talking about. And he said, how dare you call yourself a constitutional conservative? He said, I get the fact that we needed to put this on the plug-ins, but he said, this is a little bit of a paraphrase. He said, you really are just taxing me because I made a smart decision and my cars get better gas mileage than yours. And I was like, he's right. So I have a bill. I've boned one of my bill slots this year to try to take the non-plug-in hybrids off that, because that's a big part of the market now, right? Ford adopted the technology Toyota's used, and I think Hyundai and everybody else has this whole synergy drive thing that Toyota come up with.
Yeah.
And you pay $2, $2.50 per gallon for gas, and you generate your own electricity, store it in a battery, and every now and then your engine cuts off and your battery kicks in, you get better gas mileage. And so I learned from that. I don't know that I thought through that one enough when I voted. Give you another example quickly, because this whole pesticide bill that's come through, there's a protecting the the manufacturers based on the labels. And
yeah.
so our ability to be able to seek legal recourse must remain inviolate. Can't be messed with, right, through laws. And that's constitutional. And, you know, you want to believe the best in folks. And I actually voted for the bill last year because it was just about the language, right? But then I see what the U.S. Congress had just considered in this recent consideration. In a 700-page bill, they're going to sneak in this protection for these foreign manufacturers that they're not liable for damage caused by pesticides. And yes, well, they got it pulled out. Fortunately, Congress heard the uproar and pulled it out, but they're going to try again. And the more I've researched, it's not helping our farmer. The farmer is still left vulnerable to the lawsuit. It's just the chemical company. And yeah, so I'm doing a little more research on that before we vote on that one this year. And that's a tough one because you have lots of people call in. I voted against the vouchers that Governor Lee pushed.
Okay.
So Article 11, Section 12 of the Tennessee Constitution has 3 sentences in it. The first sentence talks about the inherent value of education and recognizing that. The third sentence talks about it's a may, not a shall statement, and that we may invest in colleges and universities kind of thing, right? Mm-hmm. The second sentence in Article 11, Section 12 is a shall. That means you got to. And it says the General Assembly shall provide for the maintenance, support, and eligibility standard for a system of free public schools. So when I read this, as we're about to vote on the vouchers, I didn't like the way we were doing them. I just can't vote for something I know that's unconstitutional. I fully intend to suspend the voucher thing if y'all elect me as governor. I think I could do that if it's unconstitutional. But lots of pressure from the big money lobbies. And so from big lobbies from out of state spend millions and millions of dollars to sway that vote. Governor Lee, I'm just being honest, the administration, maybe Governor Bill Lee himself didn't do it, but all kinds of promises and tweaks on that bill to try to convince people. In my office for House District 32, we had, so I've already told you, I was a no period because it's unconstitutional. Even if you'd called and said, please vote for it, I wouldn't have because it's unconstitutional. But we kind of give it a quickie-loo of emails and calls, and we were like 1,500 against and like 5 for.
Wow.
And so that part was easy for me, the voting no, but you knew that there was going to be a consequence because that, unfortunately, that's the way politics works. So you had people pulled off of the committee, the education committee.
There you go.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. And then you have people that are, kind of shunned and you can't get a bill passed or whatever kind of thing they say. The people that do that kind of bullying aren't bold enough to come to your face and say, because you did this, I'm not going to let you pass anything. But you got to understand the consequences of that. And you're about to get into politics. I hope it is not that way where you're running, but brother, I'm going to bet you that it was that way when we were 5th graders and you had bullies, and I suspect it's that way in every political body.
I imagine so. That's a story for another day. So what I want to get into something you just talked about was the tax that you mentioned, the hybrid tax.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
The tax that you are working hard to get rid of is grocery tax.
Yes, sir. It's my second time carrying this bill. Yes, sir.
Because families don't experience policy as theory. They experience it at the checkout line.
That's exactly right.
Tennesseans still have grocery tax.
Yes, sir.
People out there want to know.
Yes.
People come here from other states and they go, oh my God, I can't believe I pay tax on groceries. And I'm like, yeah, but did you see the property tax, how low it is now compared to the gas is? And you complain about the grocery tax?
Yeah.
That's besides the point. For listeners who don't understand it fully, how does that tax work today? And who do you feel it is the hardest hit?
So I think it equally hits everybody. And I think that's the great thing about taking that tax off. And we generate so much revenue. We spend so much in corporate welfare, which I'm absolutely opposed to because I think it's extra constitutional spending. I think every single Tennessean will benefit from a removal of that state grocery sales tax. So the way it's set up in Tennessee, you can only have a maximum of 7% tax on groceries. 4% of that is state. The rest is your local community. The bill that I ran 2 years ago, which was put behind the budget, which means it had a fiscal note. It was going to, by estimate, reduce revenue going into the coffers in Nashville by $146 million. This one will have a similar fiscal note. It's almost identical in language. It takes a very measured approach at this because I think we should do that in government. We should be responsible. Right now, ladies who are on a WIC program don't pay sales tax on those items that are on the WIC card, the milks and juices, the breads, and all that kind of stuff. Federal program. But the reason I picked that is our grocers are already calibrated to understand what those items are. They don't have to go do a bunch of reprogramming. I went out and talked to the grocery stores, local managers, Food City and Kroger and Ingles and all that kind of stuff. And because I don't want to burden them, right? Because we do too much of that in government. And so the bill again this year would remove that 4% portion of the state grocery tax on those items. So not all food items, but those items. And it gets us a good step forward in starting to remove that. And I think that's important. I would completely support, you have a representative here in Knox County. If I recall, the bill she carried last year took all the grocery tax off, a Republican, Elaine Davis, a friend of mine. Mm-hmm. And she really fought hard to get it, but it had it has almost $1 billion fiscal note, I think. And so you can't build the Smokies a new stadium or the Titans a new stadium or incentivize Ford to come in and take $1 billion hit on your revenue. I'm being facetious. My inner smart Aleck's coming out. And so I'm sure it was behind the budget as well. But I think to your question, who does it hurt the worst? I think the evidence is easy. I don't feel that 4 cents as much because God has so blessed me in life. There's a little lady living across in the next holler, up going east of here, north here, south here, any direction, that they're having to make a decision between, because policy does hit them in the pocketbook.
Right.
They're making a decision between medicine or rent. There's a young daddy who has lost his wife to cancer, and he's working and doing his best to get a new ball bat or a new glove or a new set of cleats or whatever for the kid. And he's making those kind of decisions every day. And I have lots of young people come to me and say, hey, I'm doing all the right things. I've got a degree and everything. I can't afford to pay rent in Kingsport. Yeah, the places I could get for $1,600 a month, I can't afford to rent. I can't buy a house in a place I'd live that's not crime ridden. And I'll get the question often, young people who've not studied this well, they'll say, can you fix prices? Will you fix prices? No, that's what Mom Donnie's going to do. That's a communist thing. Price fixing is not a good thing. But what government can do is stop getting in your wallet and your purse so much and liberate those dollars you have in your wallet, let you decide how to spend them. I think that has a better velocity through the economy. The dollar that you spend has an optimal velocity through the economy over a dollar that the government would spend. And I think, I don't know if sometimes people ask me, what do you mean? Is that the travel time or the duration at each stop? Because I think that's where value, these pieces of paper in our wallet really have no value. The value is earned when we exchange it for something, you hold it for a minute and exchange it for something else. That's how the value's gained. And it's a big system of bartering. And there's some kind of residency time and travel time and all that fits into that. And I say, well, Monty, what is that? I have no clueless idea. I would have to ask an economics professor to get that. So that's my deal on the property tax, or on the grocery tax. And I think we need to do something with property tax. We can talk about that if you want to, but it's affecting rent and purchase price too.
Well, kind of getting into the grocery tax question is, we talk to people about it a little bit, and it's come up. Elaine Davis is one of our local reps. It's come up at a lot of legislative functions that we've had. When people hear cut the grocery tax, the next question is always, well, how do we make up the difference? So we're reducing spending, or we're just shifting taxes somewhere else? Are we getting it from somewhere else?
My objective as a state representative, my objective would be to force the governor to spend less of your money, right? Be more responsible. If I'm your next governor, it is absolutely about reducing how much we spend and thereby collecting less from your pockets. I think those dollars need to stay in Joey's pocket, your wife's purse, or the Knox County coffers. Because every dollar we send to Nashville in revenue collection, you never get a dollar back. It doesn't matter what your grants are. You'll always get 99 cents or less because there's a handling fee or a spin cycle fee in that machine to be able to redistribute that wealth.
Mhm.
And I think that's hard on inflation. I think inflation is driven by debt, federal debt on dollars and all that. I get all that. But I think there's also an inflationary impact in sending too much money to a centralized government, whether it's DC or Nashville, because you never get that full dollar back into the economy. And so
Yeah.
leave it in your pocket.
So here at the Prosperity Lounge, we talk a lot about stewardship, money, responsibility, and trust. How should state government think about stewardship the same way families and businesses do?
I think in Tennessee, we do lots of those things better than the other states right now. I think having a balanced budget, a required balanced budget, is important. Now, we balance that with our federal dollars and our state dollars, right?
Okay.
And so when we have, like 6 years ago, Governor Haslam's last budget request, the first one Governor Lee worked under, was $37.5 billion. 2025 budget request from Governor Lee was $59.5 billion, 59% increase.
Wow.
Wow. So rumor has it, hadn't seen the budget yet. I'll get that in a couple of weeks. It's a big book about this thick. I read it. And rumor has it, he's going to ask for another about $6 billion. If that's true, based on either my public education math or my MBA math, if that's true and we pass it, then in 7 years, Governor Lee will have overseen a 74.4% budget increase in the state. Why does that matter if the budget's balanced? That means we're taking more money out of your pocket. Well, I talk to my colleagues, whom I love, who many are good men and women. They don't think through this. They say, well, Monty, I've been here for 27 years. Well, maybe you've been there too long, first. And secondly, they'll say, we've never raised taxes. And I'll say, you don't understand inflation. There are two beneficiaries primarily to inflation in an economy, lenders and the government. Because as the price of everything goes up, that per rate price of revenue goes up. And so if we had a 30% increase in light bread or eggs, and it's been much more than that, you've just increased your collection of taxes on those matters. We have raised taxes. We might have raised the rate, but we've raised the revenue generated, so we've raised taxes. So how can government help first? Reduce the financial burden, unshackle people's wallets so that they decide how their dollars spent. I think that's the best thing we can do.
You get elected governor, or let's say you stay. I don't know what your plans are if you don't get elected governor. You staying as
just go to retirement. No. I had term limited myself to only be 2 terms in the state house because I thought I could get some things done. We have.
Okay.
And I was kind of happy to get out of it. And there's other things I want to do. I've met lots of people I love.
Yeah.
I've met lots of people that disgust me. But, so if I didn't win, I'll go back to hunting more.
Okay. So this is kind of like if you were staying, or if you're in the big chair.
Mm-hmm.
If you weren't in the big chair, you'd still be fighting the fight. That's what this question was based on. But where should Tennessee prioritize spending, and where should it intentionally pull back?
So first, all spending must remain within the authorities and boundaries given by the Constitution. And I think some of those include infrastructure that we're struggling with today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think then that goes to the pullback quickly. Is where do we pull those dollars back? I'm already talking about reducing the burden of taxation on persons, at least in that one area that's going to the state coffers by grocery sales tax. There are others that interest me as well. But first, let's start with that. Let's start working ourselves down. Stop offering incentives to businesses to move to Tennessee. See, I don't think government has a function in it. That when we say public-private partnership, we say soft socialism. And that's extreme to people today. We've grown so accustomed to it. Well, Monty, if we don't do that, then South Carolina will get all the jobs. No. Liberty and less government is a huge draw for both people and industry. Regulation is a part of that less government. And if you talk to many small business owners, I have, from the Mississippi River to the Smoky Mountains, and they say things like, opposed to giving $1 billion worth of incentives to a Ford Motor Company to move into West Tennessee, especially when every time I turn around, I have to deposit money with the state to keep my local small business going. I think we saw this during COVID, Joey.
Mm-hmm.
We saw that Lowe's and Walmart were open and ready for business, but some of the small businesses weren't able to, right? And there's a bias in the current centralized government, the current national establishment, to big business. Why is that? That bias is there because most of your small businesses don't have $500 per plate to go sit down at a fundraiser and hobnob with all the people whose pants are too tight and jackets are too tight. And they aren't really, I'm having fun. I'm not trying to be mean, but they do that. We've turned fundraising into something that has left the average Tennessean out. We need to change it.
I see those emails going around once in a while, and it's like, oh, it's just really nice. It'd be fun to go have dinner and open the email. I'm like, yeah, I can't afford it.
Yeah, so I quite often get an opportunity to pay often $1,500, $2,000 for a table to go to a dinner. And if that's 10 people, $1,500, okay. We invite 8 folks and I get to go speak at it. But we have $10,000 and $15,000 and $20,000 tables. I'm told, I haven't been to one, but I'm told that we have dinners where it's like $1,000 a plate just to raise money for a candidate. That the people that can afford that are not represented in that group. We should be doing town halls, public debates, open discussion, answering questions on podcasts, rather than turn it into this profane fundraising thing, which then enables these corporate globalist PACs to come in and spend money against a candidate. I wasn't primaried in the nobody ran against me in the last election, right? Primary or general, as I recall. And I'm thankful for that. But if you don't vote with the right people, that multi-billion-dollar political action committee can come in and put enough money into a race against you that you'll have a hard time winning. Yes.
Well, I'm just looking at the clock there, and we're getting close to the top of the hour. So going to end the normal portion of the radio show at the top of the hour. If you got a few minutes to stick around after to stay live on YouTube.
I would love to stay, but I have grandkids waiting.
All right. So we're going to be quick. All right. Got a couple of questions from the audience for you, and then we'll move into our quick rapid fire round. Sarah from Knoxville wanted to know, how can everyday citizens stay engaged without becoming cynical?
Well, that's a great question, Sarah. Thank you for writing in. I think the big force that we battle against, and this is going to sound a little Stars Wardian, okay? So don't be offended by it. But there is an establishment politic that consists of both parties that want the Sarahs of this world to just disengage and not vote and think it doesn't matter who I vote for. Once we do that, first, the Republic is in a dangerous place. And secondly, the big PACs get to make all the decisions. So don't get disengaged, Sarah. If you're a Christian, pray that God will give you the ability to make a difference. Pray for those people that are making horrible decisions, that God will bring their hearts to repentance, and pray fervently. And don't pray little itty bitty prayers. Pray like you're praying to the Creator and King of all glory, that He can change these people's hearts.
Great question. Great answer. Lisa from Franklin asked, how do you handle disagreement without burning bridges?
Pray sometimes. I don't, Lisa. Thank you for asking. I pray mess that up sometimes. But I one of the things I was telling Joey before the show, one of the things I'm thankful for this experience to get to be state rep, God has made me a little bit better in that people who are divergently opposite to my opinions on things, I'm learning to be able to sit down with them and just talk. And, you would think by 62, you'd already have that. we've allowed politics become a battlefield of vitriol.
Mhm.
We should debate. We should be able to disagree and not hate one another when we walk away from it. And I think we've got to reacquire that in Tennessee. I'm never going to vote for something I think is unconstitutional. I'm never going to vote for anything I think is un-American or woke or broke or whatever. I'm just not. But even the people that are doing that, how can I not sit down and engage with them? One of us might learn something.
And then David from Murfreesboro wants to know, what single principle should guide Tennessee's decisions?
The Constitution is not a principle, but adherence to the Constitution should honoring the oath of for the politicians, for the people who are in public office, unity for both those in public office.
Mhm.
We have a common bond. We're all image bearers of God. We're all Tennesseans. And again, even we should look for places of unity. And that doesn't mean compromise. Compromise is often a sinful thing in today's world. So don't think I'm saying that. But there are things that things aren't, David, left and right. I don't think. I think that's a false dichotomy. But I think that there are things that those on the proverbial left and the proverbial right should be able to agree on, like veterans or children's health or whatever. And we ought to find some common ground on those things to be able to do good things.
Love those. We are going to move into our last section here. It's our rapid fire round questions. 10 quick questions for Monty. Are you ready, sir?
I'm warmed up.
All right. Early mornings or late nights?
Early mornings.
Coffee or sweet tea?
Coffee.
A book that every leader should read?
George Washington's farewell address is not a book, but everybody should read it. The Bible, we should read it. Colonel David Hackworth's About Face was written somewhere in the 70s or 80s. It's about that thick, and it's an arduous read, but it's important for leadership, I would think. That's another good. So there's 3 or 4.
Perfect. Add those to my list. A mentor who shaped you the most?
My wife has been a mentor to me in many ways. God put her in my life. And so most of what you see that might be at all acceptable about me, dear Denise, of almost 42 years, has ground off the rough edges. So I'd have to say there, I could point to my mom. I could point to my dad. I could point to the drill sergeants. Those old men who were 26 years old had a significant impact. I could point to all those people, but my wife.
What is one habit that keeps you grounded?
I like to read. I like to spend some quiet time in the mornings, reading, praying, walking. I would say reading.
Okay. What's the best advice you ignored at first and then later learned was gold?
If you don't have something of value to say, keep your mouth shut.
Something people misunderstand about leadership.
Leaders are born, not made. Men and women can become better at leadership attributes, but there are some people that will be in leadership positions you will face in life that have no leadership ability.
What's one word you want people to associate with your leadership?
Christ-like.
Name a Tennessee hidden gem. What's someplace people need to go check out?
Ozone Falls.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's quick.
If you've not been to Ozone Falls,
I have not.
Yeah. Let me give you a couple more.
Okay.
Land Between the Lakes in Paris Landing in Tennessee, up in Henry County. Shelby Farms in Shelby County, just outside Memphis. They have a buffalo herd.
Okay.
So I've traveled the whole state. I've been to all the counties many times. Go to Sullivan County. There is a carousel, handmade carousel, that if you have children or if you just enjoy craftsmanship, you got to go to Sullivan County, to Kingsport, to see that.
Okay.
Go past Elizabethton, like you're going to make the drive into Johnson County up to Mountain City, and look at the lake. It will take your breath. Go when it's cold and it's snowing, and you'll freeze to death, and it'll take your breath. But God has had his hand on this state. It is something else. Go to the Northwest Tennessee, to Lake and Obion County. Go see Reelfoot Lake.
Okay.
But go look at the farmland in the rural settings in West Tennessee. Again, it'll take your breath to see the cotton crops and the corn and the soy. It's less hilly,
Mm-hmm.
but man, it's beautiful.
And finally, Monty, what's your personal definition of prosperity?
Living without stress of being in debt, living knowing that you don't have stories that you have to modify because you told a lie, and living content and grateful with that which you have in whatever condition. I've woke up and seen the sunrise over some really nasty places, dangerous places in Iraq in the 2 times I've been there. We talked about the first time. Learn to find peace where you are and the beauty where you are.
Monty, thank you so much. Really appreciate you coming here and pulling up a chair in the Prosperity Lounge. If people want to connect and know more about you, where should people check you out?
Website's a good place to start, and that's Fritz, Fritts, the number 4, TN.com, fritzfortn.com, or just go to Fritz for Governor on the Facebook or Twitter or X or whatever it is. You'll find me on all the social media platforms.
Love that. So again, thank you guys so much for being here, for pulling up a chair. Obviously, we talked about leadership, stewardship, real world impact. Whether you lead a family, a business, or a community, character always matters. And thank you, Monty, again for stepping into the lounge. Hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. For more in-depth interviews and quick hit daily tips, make sure you're subscribed to the Prosperity Lounge on YouTube. Look for us on Apple, Spotify, and you can listen there as well. And do me a favor when you guys are there, follow, leave me a quick, nice comment wherever you find us. That means more to me and helps me out more than you know. So until next time, everybody, stay faithful, stay fearless, and remember, freedom lives where faith and action meet. The lounge is always open, and so is your next breakthrough. This has been the Prosperity Lounge.
This is where momentum meets the soul. The Prosperity Lounge, yeah, we don't just we grow.